The first class that we start with the level 1 curriculum is Kongs. With the Kong, what we're focusing on is utilizing that ground Kong from warm-up to transition into Kong ups and side Kongs. With the ground Kong, we're gonna start with our feet together. We're gonna move both our hands and then both of our feet. Both of our hands and then both of our feet. When we do this, we just wanna think to ourselves, hands, feet, hands, feet. One of the things we're looking for within that ground Kong is that we do not have a saggy butt. We want our butt to be nice and high. The higher our butt is, the easier it's going to be to maintain that momentum. Also, the easier it's going to be able to get up on top of something with our Kong up or our Kong vault. The more I dive out, the higher my butt gets, the higher my feet are, the easier it is for me to get my feet on top of something. Ultimately, the ground Kong is a controlled face plant. I'm constantly falling forward. I'm just putting my hands out and then moving my feet, putting my hands out, moving my feet as I fall forward. The higher my butt is, the more I'm able to just fall. Trying to get used to controlling and maintaining that momentum. If I have a saggy butt's a low butt is a slow butt. Saggy butt causes me to rock back and forth. Not only am I not maintaining my momentum as I rock back and forth, but I'm also setting myself up for when I go into a Kong up that I have a lower butt, and then I could possibly shin the side of the box or clip my feet as I'm trying to go over with that Kong vault. With the ground Kong, really getting used to having that high butt, falling forward, controlling that momentum. So saggy butt looks like this. Saggy butt, saggy butt, saggy butt. So that's a lot of back and forth, start and stop. Ideally, keeping my butt nice and high. I don't need to have my legs straight. They can be bent a little, but again, I'm focusing on falling, controlling that momentum. It's a controlled face plant. With that ground Kong, thinking to yourself, hands, feet, hands, feet. With any version of a Kong, whether it's a ground Kong, a side Kong, a Kong up, a Kong vault, a Kong down, you're thinking hands, then feet. If I moved my hands, then I move my feet. If I moved my feet, then I move my hands. I don't want to be a ground bunny. I don't want to move hands and feet at the same time. You really want to put weight into your hands. Start to build the comfortability of putting weight in your hands, but also starting to build that strength of being able to put weight in your hands as you start to go bigger, as you start to use other versions of the Kong. With the warm-up, we start to do the Kong with the rails. One of the things I say to the kids is as it becomes more complex, whether that's going over the rail, on the rail with just your hands, or doing the Kong up and going hands and feet on the rail, go back to its simplest form, which again with the Kong is hands, feet, hands, feet. If I move my hands, I'm moving my feet next. If I move my feet, I'm moving my hands next. We do the dive ground Kong, where we're diving to our hands over. We're not jumping over, we're getting used to getting that nice high butt. The more we dive, the more our butt gets high, getting used to diving to our hands in that dive Kong. Again, looking to have that nice high butt. We then move to going to our Goldilocks zone, understanding where our body needs to be positioned in relation to the obstacle to use the obstacle the most safe and efficient way. The first one we start with is just the hands-on, feet close, and then going into that dive Kong over. Positioning myself, I'm scooping to my hands like I do with that table, but now my hands are on the rail. Since I moved my hands, I moved my feet next. I want to make sure I'm leaving space to put my feet. If I'm too close and I scoop to my hands on the rail, I don't have any space to put my feet, which causes people to then want to move their hands, which is then hands, hands, not hands, feet. So it is important that you find that Goldilocks zone, leaving enough space to move your feet after you move your hands. So again, scooping to my hands. Since I move my hands, I move my feet next. I'm bringing my feet next to it. Since I move my feet, I move my hands next, and I go ahead and go into the progression from before, which is the dive Kong over. Again, pulling back to that simplest form of hands, feet, hands, feet. The next progression is the Kong up. From here, I'm gonna put both my hands and feet on. Biggest thing with these, but especially with the Kong up, is you wanna maintain that momentum. Not only is that what we're trying to do, but maintaining momentum is actually gonna make the movement easier. As an example, if I go to Kong up here, I don't wanna stop in the middle of it and then try to put my feet on. It's not gonna work, it's gonna be a lot harder. I wanna let my momentum carry me on top. Hands, feet. Same thing here. The more we can maintain that momentum, the easier it's gonna be. But again, that's what we're ultimately trying to do, is learn how to maintain our momentum through space to make the movement safer and easier. For the Kong up, again, pulling back to that hands, feet. This time, still starting in that same Goldilocks zone, I'm gonna scoop to my hands on, hands off, feet off. Again, not wanting to stop, maintaining that forward momentum. With this, making sure I'm scooping. Don't fall to the rail. I'm not going that way. I'm down and forward. So I really wanna scoop to hands on, hands off, feet off. Again, pulling back, hands, feet. We also go over the side Kong every warm up. With the side Kong, it's just a Kong to the side. We're still thinking hands, feet. If I move my hands, I move my feet next. If I move my feet, I move my hands next. With the side Kong, I'm doing a Kong to the side. So I'm going to start to the side of the rail. I'm still doing that scoop to table that we did earlier in the warm-up, but now I'm gonna scoop and put my hands on the rail. Since I moved my hands, I then move my feet, which I jump to the other side one time, and then I fall to my hands as I move forward on the other side. Again, maintaining momentum, one fluid motion. Again, those are done every warm-up because those are great foundational pieces that we then work to build on. From there, when we get into the actual Kong class, we're gonna start here on these launch pads. They're 8 inches off the ground. They're enough off the ground that we're still able to be safe, but we can really start to mimic the movements and have an understanding of why we are doing the movement. We start with ground Kong to Kong up to side Kong. Ground Kong, hands and feet are on the ground. Kong up, hands and feet are up on the box. Side Kong, just as we did with that rail, hands are on the obstacle, feet are on the ground. Hands, feet, Kong up, hands, feet, side Kong, hands, feet, and then ground Kong out. Again, hands, feet, falling forward, having that nice high butt, maintaining that momentum. We wanna make sure when we do that side Kong that just like when we were grabbing that rail, our hands are to the side of the box. We really wanna make sure that we're doing all three. Again, ground Kong, Kong up, side Kong. Some of the mistakes that we see is that people forget to do their Kong up, they go right into their side Kong. Which, what I tell the kids, that's like me just running around the gym going, woohoo! Woohoo! One of the things I tell the kids, if I'm here and I don't do my Kong up first, I go right into my side Kong, I'm gonna clip my feet on the rail. That's not good. The other thing we see is that instead of doing their side Kong, they do a version of a down Kong, or almost like a dive down Kong. Once they've gotten on top of the box, instead of going to the side, they just keep moving forward and they put their hands on the ground and go out. Which again, 8 inches off the ground, not a big deal. What happens, we move over here, I talk to the kids, if I do that here, I'm falling 3 feet now. So I shouldn't just be like, do, 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 do. Whoa. The next progression, once they've shown me that they can do it at this height, so that I know they can be safe, we go to this height. Still thinking hands, feet, we're going to go Kong up, side Kong. As we start to get higher, the diving out and the higher butt is much more important. If I don't have a high butt, I'm gonna fall on my knees or possibly hit my shins. The more I dive out, the higher my butt gets, the easier it is to get my feet on top. One of the things we start to see with the side Kong once we move to the higher box is that the kids aren't putting their hands to the side. They're putting them more here. Just like with the rail, when we were using the rail, if the rail was here, I wouldn't grab the rail like this. I would grab the rail like this. When the rail isn't there, I still want to treat it like the rail is. I want to grab the edge. The edge is going to give me more control of the obstacle. If I'm going really fast and I just put my hands here, I could slip. If I go here, I can grab the obstacle. I can control the obstacle. You want to always control the obstacle and not let the obstacle control you. For the level 2 test, you have to use the correct hand. You have to show us you know which hand to use. Again, the level 2 test isn't necessarily hard, but it's specific. You need to be able to use the correct hand as you go down. The correct hand is going to make it safer and more efficient. I don't even need to know the difference between my left and right. I just need to know that if I'm going this way, this hand goes first, this hand goes second and further. If I switch that up, this gets in my way, which makes it less efficient, but it also causes me to kind of start to spin. Again, if I'm going this way, this hand first, this hand second. If I'm going this way, this hand first, this hand second, and further. We then want to talk about the correct foot. Since we're maintaining our momentum, we are going to be running out of this. We don't want to land on 2 feet. We only want to land on 2 feet when we're taking a big drop, a landing, or trying to stick something. If I'm moving out of it, landing on 2 feet stops my momentum. I'm trying to maintain my momentum. With this, the foot you want to use is the foot that's closest to the box. So I'm actually making a circle with my hands. I go hand, hand, foot, foot. Hand, hand, foot, foot. Again, a circle. So I go hand, hand, foot, foot. Just like we did with the rail side Kong, I'm scooping and then I'm jumping my feet over this invisible rail to then put a foot down. I don't want to, from here, try to step down. I keep my feet together, hop a little bit off as I place one foot down. Piecing it together, we have a Kong up, side Kong, using the correct hand and the correct foot, maintaining that momentum out of it. For the level 2 test, you're not gonna be able to have this box. You're gonna need to be able to really jump your butt high in the air. The higher my butt is, the easier it is to get my feet on top. The more I dive my hands out, the higher my butt gets, the easier it is to get my feet on top. Also, the more I dive out, the more space I leave for my feet. If I'm trying to do it from here, I'm gonna risk landing with a shin. If I'm diving out, leaving space for my feet, gets my butt high, gets my feet higher. One of the things we practice with this is practicing flying our butts like a kite. We're trying to achieve this floating sensation. So you walk up, put your hands on the box, and think about jumping and sticking your butt out. I keep my feet underneath me. I can still see my feet as I punch my butt out, sticking it as high as I can. Again, trying to find that point where I'm floating. From there, I want to jump, stick my butt in the air, and then bring my knees to my chest. I want to be careful with this because if I'm floating and I drive my knees to my chest, I could topple over. So again, the importance of doing that ground Kong every warm-up is to start to build the strength, comfortability, and awareness of starting to have that butt higher than my head, my hands, so that I'm comfortable there, but I can also control it. One of the mistakes we see with sticking the butt in the air is that they'll not only stick their butt in the air, but stick their feet back. So they'll go. Again, I want to make sure I'm keeping my feet underneath me. Just as if they were on the ground, I'm just driving my hips and butt back. I'm not bending here. sticking my butt out, bringing my knees to my chest. Making sure that I'm bringing my knees to my chest as best as I can, not bringing my heels to my butt. From there, I then want to start to do the actual Kong up. I want to start with my hands a little bit further out, leaving space for my feet. Now I'm going to do that same thing. I'm going to jump, stick my butt in the air, bring my knees to my chest. As I'm light, I'm going to kind of push the box away to get my feet back on the box and my chest up. Not only is diving out getting that butt high, but it's also putting me in a position that with my momentum, I'm already over top of the box, which makes it easier and safer to land my feet on top. From there, after I get my feet on top, I'm just gonna scoop to my table and go into my side Kong. Now, when we add momentum, momentum is our friend. It's gonna make it easier to dive out, get further on the box, which is gonna make it safer. Pulling back to that hands, feet, hands, feet.